Ninjago has a problem, and no, I am not talking about the constantly terrible release schedule, or the constantly terrible marketing, or the constantly okay, Ninjago has a lot of problems, but today we're talking about Ninjago's status quo problem. What is a status quo, you're most likely not asking? A status quo is when something doesn't change and continues to remain the same, just like Ninjago's terrible release schedule. Don't get me wrong, I think that Ninjago has some great writing and storytelling, most of the time, but god, do the writers just love going back on all their consequences and reverting the show back to the status quo every 5 seconds. The most recent example, and what inspired me to make this video, would be Aeneas returning crystallized, but let's use that for now and go through some other examples. Starting off with Rebooted's final scene of Zane rebuilding himself after dying while sacrificing himself to defeat the Overlord. Actually, this moment isn't that much of the writers walking back on their consequences as so many other moments we'll be looking at, but I thought I would include it, as I always felt like this scene would have been better off not being included, leaving the reveal of Zane coming back for season 4 and not right after his funeral, as it kind of softens the blow of him dying. I mean, I still cried like a little wuss anyways. Of course, I'm not against them bringing Zane back at all, as he's a robot, he can just upload himself the newest iPhone or whatever he wanted to, and with him coming back, he was permanently titanium, and had a good arc of coming to terms with his new identity. Unlike the next status quo reset we'll talk about being Ghost Cole. I am so disappointed that Cole was really only a ghost for like 15 episodes on Dave the Departed. This absolutely should have been a permanent change. It would have made Cole really stand out against the other ninja, not to mention give him a lot of ghostly abilities that could have been used in really interesting ways. The ninja team also would become way more diverse and interesting, now featuring both an android and a ghost, opposed to the usual status quo of 5 humans and an android that has gotten pretty boring. Remember the absolute brilliance of Skybound? Well, for me, that season only has one problem. Jay doesn't keep his eye patch. Like, what the hell was the point in him getting it this season to then just throw it away an episode later? The writers are really just making it harder for themselves. They could have had Jay get his eye patch this season, and that would be it, but they just had to have him throw it away, so now they'll have to write another reason for him to get an eye patch before the show ends. Or they could just have it happen off screen and never be explained, which would be incredibly lazy and such a letdown. I do understand that Skybound was erased from the timeline, so Jay wouldn't even be able to keep the eye patch if his eye was actually damaged. But if you ask me, the eye patch could have served as a great reminder for Jay to remember everything he and Nia went through to eventually end up back together, as well as a reminder of how powerful his words can be, both being the cause of Natakon's strength and wishes, and also his weakness was his defeat. And it would just look super badass. This then brings us to our final topic to discuss, being Nia's horribly rushed return in Crystallized. Skybound ended with an incredibly emotional final scene of Nia leaving the ninja, with it feeling like she wouldn't return until at least the very end of the next season, or at all, and then Crystallized just brought her back in the 6th episode. The 6th episode! Now I did not at all expect them to keep Nia merged with the sea, but bringing her back in the 6th episode, that is way too early. They of course did this to uphold the status quo of there always being 6 ninja. Nia absolutely should have returned at the very end of the season. How cool would it have been if when it all seemed lost, a massive wave of water alongside giant Nia came to save the day, which is exactly what was supposed to happen. According to a recent interview with Tommy Andresen, one of the head writers of the show, he confirmed that the original ending for the season was that Floyd become consumed by his Oni form, with Nia making her first appearance in the season to defeat him. That sounds so much better than bringing Nia back in the 6th episode and having her do basically nothing else for the rest of the season. But heaven forbid the ninja team goes through any major changes for more than 6 episodes. In conclusion, the writers constantly reverting the ninja and other parts of the show back to the status quo makes it really hard to believe moments like Nia's sacrifice at the end of Skybound, knowing that it will most likely be walked back on in the next season's first few episodes. This status quo problem also really stops the show from having proper consequences and seasons leaving a proper impact. Both March of the Oni and Crystallized, 2 seasons that were hyped up as the end of the series, ended with no real consequences and with not a single main character dying or anything major happening to the ninja. Compare a screenshot of the ninja from season 8 to the end of Crystallized. Absolutely nothing has changed, and to me that's a problem, making it feel like the writers just refuse to let these characters change and refuse to let their show have proper consequences. Honestly, I'll forgive the writers for always reverting back to the status quo. They just give Jay his goddamn eye patch. Either that or finally killing Wu. I swear the planet would have exploded and that old bastard would still be alive.